me about presidential candidates and politicians. I'm very concerned about that. I mean, Ronald Reagan, believed in, he had a sort of a doomsday Armageddon belief. Sort of George W. Bush have the same belief, believing he was anointed by God. These things scare me. I mean, this should not be what I think George Washington had in mind when he created this country. He wanted that separation really made. I don't think he wanted the church brought into the Congress and into the White House as strongly as some of our presidents have. So with that on one side and skull and bones and the secret societies on the other, yes, I'm concerned. I'm definitely concerned.
If we say secret society instead of Freemasonry, would you say that is the connecting body of the conspiracy to rule the world? Is that the lowest or maybe then highest common denominator? What do you think?
Well, you have organizations like the Bilderbergers, you have the famous Trilateral Commission, you have a lot of organizations which are, by their very nature, secret. They don't allow their meetings to be filmed or recorded in any way. You don't know what they talked about, and these are some of our world leaders. Those are secret societies. Why in our society, why anywhere in the West, and I'm leaving the East aside for the time, why anywhere in the West it's necessary for our political leaders to meet in secret is beyond me. I can understand our intelligence services have to do things secretly. We kind of suspend disbelief where that's concerned. We kind of give the intelligence services through our government and through our elected leaders a certain leeway to do things secretly. We realize these things must be done secretly. But why do our political leaders and our former political leaders have to meet secretly and have these discussions? Their reason is, well, if we're meeting secretly, then we're free to discuss whatever we want to discuss. We don't have to worry about being criticized for it later, or just coming back to bite us later. I don't know if that's a legitimate reason. Personally, I think that I can understand that point of view, but I don't think that's legitimate because what they're discussing affects so many people on this planet that I think that some summary of what was discussed is necessary. I think that we need to know what's going on. It increases paranoia.
Yes.
It increases paranoia, and the same thing with secret societies in general, the Freemasons, all of this. Secrecy implies a certain degree of paranoia. You're going to be paranoid. It's like the UFO stuff,
Yeah.
When the government does not come out immediately and say what something is, and when they maintain secrecy or they claim ignorance, all that does is increase the paranoia exponentially. And this is not a good thing. Whether they're doing nasty things or not, this secrecy is not helpful.
So where do you think the line should be drawn then in that sense? What should, even though you have a person who is president or in some ministry position of a country or what have you, high up political business leader or something like that, do you think that they should have the right to meet in secret, or when they attain to such a level of degree of leadership in society, they should no longer be able to meet under those conditions? Or is it okay, do you think, still for them to do this, or should we make it illegal, so to speak? What's the solution here to that?
Well, I think the first solution is to recognize that our elected officials are there to uphold the laws as they stand. I think part of the problem is, part of our paranoia comes from the fact that in the United States we've had a number of presidents who've broken laws and kept it secret, obviously. We had Nixon doing that like a madman, breaking laws left and right. We had the same thing under Bush. We are in a situation where we cannot trust our elected leaders to do anything they say they were elected to do. So if, for instance, it is the law that no American serving in the military or in the intelligence services can commit an act of torture, if that is the law, if we know that a person will be taken out and prosecuted for that, and we can feel secure that that law will be defended by everyone who's elected, then perhaps we can relax a little bit about secrecy. If we know that corruption is against the law, if we know that these things are very clearly stated, who can do what is against the law, and people will be prosecuted regardless of the political party in power, et cetera, then we can relax again where secrecy is concerned, because we know that if they're doing something illegal, then it will be prosecuted. I think the problem that we have is we no longer believe that people will be prosecuted. In the United States, who is going to be prosecuted for extraordinary rendition, for instance, for the torture of political prisoners? There's still a debate as to whether anyone's going to be prosecuted. That's why we can't trust our elected officials. That's why we can't trust the secrecy, because the secrecy has led to excesses and has led to crimes. That's why we're afraid of secrecy. If we could trust our leaders to behave honorably, to uphold the ideals of which our respective countries have been created, then we can relax a little bit where secrecy is concerned. We can say, okay, they're discussing things that they don't want the outside world to know for whatever reasons. But there's such a fight against secrecy in this country now because we just don't trust anyone.
Yeah. And that's
so we
a
have
good
journalists.
thing, right?
Well, that is a good thing. I mean, we can't trust anyone at this point. Trust no one, it's the famous slogan of the X-Files, and I think it's coming back to bite us on the ass.
Yeah.
We can't trust anyone. This is the problem, and our politicians have created this situation. They're the ones who are responsible for it. So they can't cry like Freemasons, who cry that they're being, besmirched, that their reputations are being ruined by all this paranoia. When you're secret, if you're secret and everything you do is secret, well, don't cry about it if we think you're up to no good.
Yeah.
The same thing with our elected officials.
And then you have the whole question that you touched upon, of course, that many of the people in the elite are above the law. They can simply circumvent that through various things, through lawyers, but just by not telling anyone what simply is going on. And it's not until years later when we finally find out what has been going on, the people might have been dead or not in a position anymore to be prosecuted for those things. So that's another problem. They don't ask anybody if can we do this, please. They just go ahead and do it, and if it's discovered or not, that's if they're discovered, that's unfortunate to them. But if they're not, then that's a benefit to them. So that's another problem, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, as Nixon famously once said, if the president does it, it's not illegal. Well, since when?
Yeah.
Where does it say that in the Constitution? But this is the idea. They're above the law. People find themselves in that position of thinking that the masses of people are just too stupid to know what we're doing, that we're doing the best for them. And of course, they don't really believe that. In their heart of hearts, they're doing what's best for themselves, not what's best for society. But anyway, they have their own agendas, and they think that what they're doing is right. They think they're making the hard decisions. But that's not their job. Their job is to defend the Constitution. In our case, their job is to defend the United States from enemies, domestic and foreign, but within the context of our Constitution, not just to go out and hire a hitman to go and kill somebody, or to torture somebody until they give up, whatever it is we want them to give up. That's not what we're about. And I think that a lot of Americans find themselves now in the position of having to suffer the consequences of this by everyone thinking that Americans are that way, that we're all Dick Cheney, that we're all George Bush. This is who we are as people. And there's a lot of discontent in this country right now because we've been forced into this position of having to defend torture in order to defend patriotism, in order to defend what it means to be an American. And a lot of Americans are just very upset with this. They can't swallow it. And this all came about because of secrecy, because of the Patriot Act, which gave the president and the government tremendous powers to do things that they wanted to do without, asking anyone's permission. And that's always a bad thing. They always ask you, are you willing to give up, liberty for security? And I'm not.
No.
I'll give up some security for liberty. I mean, I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what do I have? If I give up my liberty, do I have any security? I don't have any security left, do I?
That's right.
So
if we go back a little bit more in history, I guess, and talk about the roots of Masonry, and with that we can even dive into a little bit of the rituals and so forth later on. But have you found that the roots are to be found in Jewish mythology or theology? Are they Christian in origin? What are the roots here, Peter?
Well, probably the most fun I've had with this book, The Secret Temple, has been the rituals themselves and trying to identify where they came from, because this is crucial. The rituals are so strange by any religious standards, by any orthodox religious standard, that it really